Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1758B, and today's date is January 6, 2018, and the title of the episode is Insurance Policy Has Expired, Caught in a Trap. Before we get started, we know the Deep State is watching and monitoring. We've been listening to Q, and Q told us that 8chan is the only board Q will communicate on. 8chan allows you to post anonymously, so why don't you search anonymously using a VPN? Virtual Shield does not keep logs, will never sell your data to a third party. This winter month, Virtual Shield is offering 30% off all VPN plans and all premium add-on plans for as low as $3 per month. And don't forget about IdentiSafe, which allows the customer the ability to block off computer, microphone, and camera access. So check out the link below and start protecting yourself today, because we all have the right to remain private. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, Q is back, and Q has been dropping a lot of bread and letting us know what is happening, and we're going to be going over that a little bit later in this report. But first, I wanted to start off with the wall, the government shutdown. Schumer, it seems like all these memes that Trump is putting out there, all the texts, the tweets, I should say, that Trump is putting out there, they're getting to him. He tweeted out the following: "Enough with the memes. Just quit hurting innocent people and reopen the government." So Schumer is trying to put out there that Trump is hurting people by keeping the government shut down, and he wants him to stop the memes because the memes are working, and he can't stand to see them anymore. So Trump tweeted out the following: "We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked." Barack Obama, 2005. "I voted when I was a senator to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in." Hillary Clinton, 2015. "The only reason they do not want to build a wall is that the walls work. 99% of all of our illegal border crossings will end. Crime in our country will go way down, and we will save billions of dollars a year. A properly planned and constructed wall will pay for itself many times a year." Now, what Trump is doing, he's using all the different quotes that these individuals used in the past against them. And we have Ryan Savadre, if I'm saying his name correctly, of the Daily Wire. He put out, "Dems pre-Trump, Hillary supported the border wall. Obama, more border security, illegals must speak English, go back of line. Schumer, border walls work. Reid, offering benefits to illegals equals insane. Feinstein, U.S. can't be Mexico's welfare. Clinton, illegal immigration is wrong." And you can see that all these people spoke out against illegals coming into the country. They talked about building a wall. But again, this was lip service. They never really wanted to do this. They just told the people at the time what they wanted to hear. Today, they're trying to explain away why they changed their minds. Why all of a sudden do you like illegals coming into the country? Why all of a sudden are you okay with it? Why don't you want a wall? Were you truthful then, or are you truthful now? Which is it? This whole entire battle that's going on, it's not about the money. Trump already has the money for the wall. We've known this for a very long time. We know exactly what he's going to do. The whole point of this is to show the American people how these people lie and where their true allegiance lies. He's showing everyone their true agenda. That's the whole purpose of this. Now, out in France, Macron, he's having a problem out there. The rebellion is continuing with the yellow vests. They're still protesting, they're still rioting, and there are thousands upon thousands of people every day doing this. And Macron's approval rating has dropped to 25% now. 75% of the people don't like him. They think he's wrong for the country. The country is telling him, we don't want you anymore. And you know what Macron's doing? He's arresting people instead. They don't care what the people say. They could care less. This has been repeated in history over and over and over again, and we're seeing it happen once again. We saw this back in the days of kings and queens, and when they don't listen to the people and they push the people back against the wall, the people start to protest. The people then storm the castle. The people then hang or execute those leaders. Because why? They didn't listen. And again, Macron, Merkel, and the rest, they're all part of the same system. They don't care what the people say. They only care about their agenda and what they want, not truly what their people want. Are those the leaders we want? No, it is not. We see Iran and Russia, they're holding a military exercise in the Caspian Sea. We'll have to watch very carefully to make sure that the deep state doesn't try anything in this area to try to provoke something, which they might. We see right now we have Bolton out there, and we need to think about John Bolton for a second. Bolton in the past has been giving us the message that the U.S. troops will never leave Syria unless Iran leaves. Well, we knew that was fake, phony, and false. Bolton is now saying that, listen, the U.S. is not leaving unless the Turkish government can guarantee that it won't attack the Kurdish forces. Do you think Trump is using Bolton to appease the neocons, the mainstream media, and the rest, and work behind the scenes without Bolton knowing what's going on? Absolutely. Remember, the Kurds are talking to Russia and to the Syrian government, Assad, about peaceful plans, about getting along. Turkey takes their orders from Putin. Turkey is not invading. They will not go into the Kurds and destroy them. Remember the agenda of the deep state. They were backing the Kurds. They were building their armed forces, sending weapons, money, and everything else to the Kurds because eventually what their plan was to separate Syria and put it into maybe 2 or 3 different countries, the Kurds, the Shiites, and the Sunnis. And they were going to do this to Iraq. They were going to do this to all the other countries and make different countries out of this. Their agenda is still being pushed right now. They're still pushing the same narrative. They haven't changed it. So I believe what Trump is doing, he's using this to his benefit. He's using Bolton. Remember, these people are only there for a certain period of time, and that time is when Trump, the Patriots, need them to be there. And once their mission is over, they just get rid of them. Believe me, Bolton is a neocon. Bolton is not going to change. He's there for a specific reason, to allow the military, Trump, the Patriots, to work everything out in the background. Just like with North Korea, McMaster's was there for a specific reason. Mattis was there for a specific reason. Bolton is there for a specific reason. Now, Trump tweeted out today, "Our great military has delivered justice for the heroes lost and wounded in the cowardly attack on the USS Cole. We have just killed the leader of the attack, Jamal al-Badawi. Our work against al-Qaeda continues. We will never stop in our fight against radical Islamic terrorism." What is Trump really saying here? Who are these people? Remember, al-Qaeda is the deep state army. The Islamic State is the deep state army. Who attacked the United States Navy, the ship, the USS Cole? It was the deep state. These are called false flags, to push us into wars, to push us into bringing troops into certain areas. Trump is telling us that we're going after the deep state and we're getting those people that tried to harm our military, our people here in the United States. Remember, the deep state, they could care less about the people here. They could care less about the military. And Trump is letting us know that we're going to continue the fight against al-Qaeda, which is really the paid mercenary army of the deep state. When Obama and the rest said we're going after al-Qaeda, that wasn't against their army. That was against those people who were fighting against their paid army in the countries. If you take Iraq, for instance, They put in a puppet regime, and anyone that didn't like the puppet regime or was trying to remove the puppet regime, they called them Al-Qaeda, which allowed them, under the 2001 authorization for war, allowed them to use drone strikes on those individuals. Trump, the Patriots, are actually going after the paid mercenary army. They're going after those individuals. I said it before a while ago in Syria. They were going after the Islamic State. They were really going after Al-Qaeda. What you hear from the mainstream media is they're trying to protect their paid mercenary forces. When you hear the news, more military weapons are flowing in, that's from the deep state. Two different battles going on right now inside, actually three different battles inside of Syria. We have Syria and Russia fighting Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and the rebels. We have the rebels, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, fighting Assad. And then we have Trump and the Patriots getting rid of Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, which is the deep state paid mercenary army. So you can see how this is all being played out. Now, a lot of people heard the news that the Mueller investigation, which had 18 months with the grand jury, which started, I think it was back July 2017, that the judge overseeing that jury gave an extension of 6 more months, and people went crazy. Oh my God, Mueller, he has 6 more months. This is never going to end. Well, let's take a step back for a second and think logically here. And actually, I believe in the next post of Q is starting to confirm what Mueller is actually doing here. Now, first of all, a grand jury is a jury, a group of citizens empowered by law to conduct legal proceedings and investigate potential criminal conduct and determine whether criminal charges should be brought. And a grand jury may subpoena physical evidence or a person to testify. A grand jury is separate from the courts, which do not preside over its functioning. How does a grand jury work? The grand jury plays an important role in the criminal process, but not one that involves a finding of guilt or punishment of a party. Instead, a prosecutor will work with the grand jury to decide whether to bring criminal charges or an indictment against a potential defendant, usually reserved for serious felonies. Grand jury members may be called for jury duty for months at a time, but need only appear in court for a few days out of every month. Regular court trial juries are usually 6 or 12 people, but in the federal system, a grand jury can be up to 16 to 23 people. Grand juries are tools used as part of a criminal procedure to bring an indictment against a defendant. However, they're not always required and in some cases not even used. Grand jury proceedings. How a grand jury works is much more relaxed than normal courtroom proceedings. There is no judge present, and frequently there are no lawyers except for the prosecutor. The prosecutor will explain the law to the jury and work with them to gather evidence and hear testimony. Under normal courtroom rules of evidence, exhibits, and other testimony must adhere to strict rules before admission. However, a grand jury has broad power to see and hear almost anything they would like. However, unlike the vast majority of trials, grand jury proceedings are kept in strict confidence. This serves 2 purposes. It encourages witnesses to speak freely and without fear of retaliation. It protects the potential defendant's reputation in case the jury does not decide to indict. So when you hear this, people are thinking that Mueller is investigating Trump, but we need to go back to the following post, 2512. Mueller removed via D-class, and Annan asks. Q says Mueller will face charges re Uranium-1. Remember, Mueller was involved in Uranium-1 deal. He's working to save himself. Think about that for a second. He's working to save himself. Remember in the beginning when Mueller went to Trump and Trump was looking to maybe have him as the director of FBI, which was completely impossible because he already served his terms? Why did Mueller go there? To save himself. He knew that Trump knew everything. So here, Q is telling us something. Post 2524. In Annan put up all these different news articles. Rod Rosenstein is no longer in charge of the Mueller probe. New York Post, Rod Rosenstein no longer overseeing Russian probe. Department of Justice acting Attorney General to take over oversight of Russian probe, The Hill. And it goes on and on and on. And this Annan put all this together. Now, we need to think about this for a second. We all know that there was no collusion. So Mueller is actually working to save himself at this point, and most likely working to help with other investigations. Oh, that brings to mind Post 2548. General Flynn's sentencing was postponed because he was helping with what? Other investigations. Post 2548 says the following. And this is NBC News. There appears, although the redacted documents do not make it completely clear, that there is and this is in 3 brackets, +++, separate criminal investigation going on outside of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's purview, for which Flynn has been providing significant assistance. Markers are important. So, remember, when we went over this in a couple of reports ago, Flynn was in the DIA. He knows everything. Uranium One, Benghazi, he knows where the bodies are buried. This is why Clinton, Obama, and the rest needed to get rid of him quickly. And we see that just because they gave an extension to the grand jury, we need to understand that they need more time for what investigation? We know that Mueller has nothing, so he's not keeping the grand jury there for any reason. It's really to help the Trump Patriot investigation. Mueller is working to save himself. Remember, they know everything. They know exactly what's going on. Remember, Flynn told a lie because they used a FISA warrant to listen in to the conversation with Kislyak. That's how they knew Flynn lied. And that's why Flynn is sticking to his story, because he did lie, because he didn't know they listened into the conversation. And again, that conversation was supposed to be private. And that was against the law. They unmasked him. Let's move on to post 2643. This is a new post from Q. This is on January 5th, 2019. And Q starts off with giving us post 2510 again. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read what Q put under this. Gave us a Twitter link to Brit Hume, and this Twitter link says the following. On the record, this sweeping and emphatic apparently caused some journalists not to write this story. The McClatchy guys went with it anyway, despite their sources' refusal to be specific about what exactly was being investigated. What does this mean? We'll get into that in just a minute. Let me go down what Q has said here, and I'll give you the answers to what I believe is going on here. What happens when all insiders know the news is fake? Well, it is fraud, but since the fake news was designed to overthrow a duly elected president, it becomes treason. What happens when all insiders know, and this is in brackets, all bold caps, AS, which is Adam Schiff, is the leak of false data? Well, Schiff, he's being set up for prosecution as a leaker. He's been leaking information to the mainstream media, and they set him up. What happens when a member of the House Intelcom purposely leaks false and fake and false data to friendly news sources in order to maintain and portray a false narrative to the public? Again, it is fraud and treason. How do you build a case against a member of the House Intelcom if they themselves have access to the intelligence? You set them up. You deliberately leak false info. So when the leaker leaks the info, you can track the lie back to this particular leaker, since no one else knew about the particular lie. And this is what they did with Adam Schiff. What critical mission did Sessions publicly announce? RE leaks. We must find out and stop the leakers. Why did Sessions make this public? He announced the hunt for leakers, says cases have exploded since August 4th, 2017. Optics are important. Control the narrative. Deep State wanted to control the narrative, but they lost the narrative. Truth and transparency is the only way forward. Mueller deleted critical text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, an Annan answered this question. No, this was a lie that was leaked on purpose to catch Adam Schiff, red-handed leaking information he should not be. Mueller is a white hat. He would never have deleted those damaging text messages planning to remove a duly elected president by impeachment and by murder if necessary. So the whole story about Mueller deleting these incriminating text messages was a lie to entrap Adam Schiff. So the story that Horowitz team were able to retrieve these deleted texts must be a lie too. Maybe, maybe not, because nothing is ever deleted. So let me continue with Q here. Reread R.E. Mueller, this is all in brackets in bold, designed to, and under this it says, the Mueller insurance policy has expired. Q. Mueller is finished with the Russian collusion investigation. The deep state insurance policy has now expired. Think about why Nancy Pelosi would go out and hire another lawyer if they had Mueller. Does that make any sense? No. If Mueller was in there trying to find Russian collusion, why is Pelosi hiring another lawyer to do the same exact thing, or even go further into trying to find something else? It doesn't make sense whatsoever. Let's go back to Brit Hume. Now, Brit Hume was asking in his tweet, why are other reporters turning down the story about alleged ties to the NRA and to Russia, based on unsourced reports, while McClatchy ran the bogus story? Who provided the information that was used in this story? Well, it was Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is being caught up in all this. So we need to remember, Adam Schiff is leaking this information. Mueller, his insurance policy has expired for the deep state. Post 2512, Mueller is working to save himself. Rod Rosenstein and Bob Mueller, they were key players in the Uranium One scandal. And we need to think about this, and this is something that Annan brought up, which I think is very interesting. Do you think POTUS would be tweeting about removal given clear conflict? Trump should have been tweeting up a storm about this massive conflict of interest of Rod Rosenstein and Mueller investigating Trump for Russia collusion. In fact, these individuals were up to their necks in colluding with Russians themselves. But notice not a single tweet out of Trump regarding the massive conflict of interest. Why? Because both guys cut deals with Trump, and they are now working with the Patriots. Maybe not fully, but in some way, somehow, they're trying to save themselves. Because think about it, they were both involved in the Uranium One deal, dealing with Russia, and Trump could have just called them out there. They could have researched it and said, listen, this is a conflict of interest. They're the ones who are dealing with Russia. But he never really went down that path. And I believe he never went down that path is because Trump, the Patriots, they needed them. They needed them to keep the illusion alive that the deep state was still in control. But they were never in control. Let's move on to post 2644. Q puts up the following. U.S. taxpayers are paying for it all. Paris Accord equals scam trillions. Red Cross equals scam billions. Foreign aid equals scam trillions. War equals scam trillions. On and on. Who audits where the money actually goes? Who actually receives the money? The U.S. taxpayer is funding the very people we are engaged in taking down. Slush funds everywhere. Think GS pays for Antifa out of his own pocket? That's George Soros, by the way. The hole is deep. Feel sick yet? And underneath, put up a link to Trump's tweet. The Democrats want billions of dollars for foreign aid, but they don't want to spend a small fraction of that number on properly securing our border. Figure that one out. Now, we need to go back, and let me finish this actually. Under Q it says, 2 days ahead of schedule, Q. So last year in a post 489, January 7, 2018, Q let us know that the money is flowing to all these people for noble causes, which are really scams. The U.S. taxpayers are actually funding the global elite, and nobody knows where all this money really goes. Why? Because of corruption. We need to go back to post 489. Q mentioned this on January 5th of this year, 2019. If we go back to post 489, this is January 7th, 2018. This is what Q posted. U.S. taxpayers are paying for it all. Paris Accord equals scam. Red Cross equals scam. Went through the whole thing. 2 days ahead of schedule where Trump mentioned this. This was posted on the 7th. Trump tweeted it out on the 5th. So the question is, why are U.S. politicians sending aid to other countries? Who funds the politicians? Are these politicians working for Americans or other countries? There is collusion, but it's not what the deep state and the mainstream media has been telling us. The collusion is with all these politicians, where all this money's going to all these different countries or into their own pockets. Now, an Anon put up the following. January 7th, January 5th, and January 7th was 2018, January 5th was 2019, was originally supposed to be a year to the day. Got it. Another Anon put up, this proves what I suspected all along. Q's drops are a roadmap to what will happen in 2019. Trump's tweet is 2 days ahead of schedule, 1/5/19, which means that when Q made drop 489, Trump was supposed to address this subject matter on 1/7/2019. I think Q and Trump did this ahead of schedule to confirm the map. Let's move on to post 2645. Q put up pictures of 1933 paramilitary wing of the Communist Party of Germany and the 2017 paramilitary wing of the Democratic Party of America, Antifa. They look pretty much the same. Then gave pictures to compare both groups of Germany, the Nazis, and to the people today. And under this, gave us a link to Twitter to Rupley. And this is clashes in Paris. Yellow vest protests continue for the 8th week in a row. And there's a live video showing the yellow vests protesting and things like that. Q put up complete blackout by the fake news media. Ask yourself why. Are they afraid of U.S. patriots engaging in the same tactics? Did the liberal left, old guard, all brackets capitalized, engage and form organizations such as Antifa to combat and silence fascism, any such deviation of the controlled narrative? Do the actions of those patriots abroad destroy the fake news narrative? Majority agree with the policies of the liberal left. We will not go silent into the night. We will not go without a fight. Do you believe this movement, worldwide events, are simply a coincidence? Divided, you are weak. Together, you are strong. We the people have the power. Executive order active. Where we go one, we go all. So the video shows people protesting against Macron, against the elites. The mainstream media doesn't want to show any of this because, remember, their narrative is everyone's for globalism. Everyone's for what they're doing. But the truth is, nobody is. And they're afraid to show any of this because it will then give ideas to the rest of the people. And if the rest of the people around the world see what's happening, they'll start to realize and wake up. And that is the deep state, the globalist, the central bank's worst nightmare. A population that has woken up. That is their worst enemy. Let's move on to post 2646. Put everything up there from 2645, and then down below, put a picture of Trump with Jesse Jackson, Trump with Al Sharpton, and showing all these different pictures of Trump and black people. And under this, Q says, do you notice any similarities? These attempt to turn the public against our police, ICE, and those who continually serve the public interest, protect. Open borders with no immigration and custom officials to safeguard the people. EU government attempt to turn the police against the people, re. Yellow Vest protests. Police versus people, EU. D's attempt to sway public versus police, ICE, in the US. A war against globalism. A war to retain sovereignty. Divide those who police and safeguard against the people they are sworn to protect. Chaos. Make the people fight themselves versus original targets. Brackets, caps, old guard. Fake news push of racism, fascism, sexism, every other ism, etc. against those seeking to end globalism in favor of nationalism, pride of heritage and culture. Preservation of security and safety is designed to keep you submissive. Why do D's deploy and use racism as their go-to tactic when an argument or narrative cannot factually be substantiated? POTUS and black community pre-candidacy. POTUS and black community post-candidacy. Reconcile. They want you divided. Controlled submissive sheep. Posse Comitatus Act. Q. Before running for president and becoming president, nobody called Trump a racist. The tactic of the deep state is to keep the people fighting amongst themselves, with the police or anyone else. They do not want the people coming together and figuring out who the real enemy is. It is the old guard, the central bank. Again, if people realize that, the deep state, the central bank, would be doomed. That's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop the awakening. Post 2647. Q gave a picture of a watch, a pen, a book on a table. Under this, it says, will POTUS be at CD tomorrow? That's Camp David. And the answer is yes. Brackets bold, 1 year delta, matters of national security, the clock is ticking, follow the watch, Q. Well, let's take a look at post 481 from a year ago. Why am I saying 481? Because Q gave us a picture of the pen on the same exact table. Q has also told us the following. 1 year delta. Q gave us post 481 on January 6, 2018. Well, guess when Trump is going to Camp David? Pretty much the same exact time a year later. The pen confirms that's where he was, at Camp David. Now, Q says to follow the watch. So what does that really mean? Annons are trying to figure what this means. Some have come up with different explanations. We can see the watch is pointing to 314. So some people say, listen, maybe we should go to post 314. What does post 314 say? Be the autist we know you are. It's about the break. Godspeed. Patriots. Q. And then if you take that time and you use Army time, 1514, it says the following. This is Q. We have it all. Brackets Huber. Brackets turn the other way. News unlocks. So one thing we do know is that when Q posts with a pen, we usually have an executive order coming next. And we'll have to wait to see if that actually happens. Let's move on to post 2648. Q puts up 2579 and 2502. And under this, it says there's a link to a tweet. This is Maggie Haberman. She put down in her tweet, more on what at Costa Reports is hearing. Trump has been talking about it for several days, and White House counsel's office has taken a look at what is possible since the shutdown began and Trump revived talk on this inside White House. So what is Haberman saying? The mainstream media believe Trump just came up with the idea. Little do they know that this was the plan all along. Trump and the Patriots were counting on Soros and the deep state to send the caravan so they could use this against them. It allowed Trump to declare what? A national emergency. Has he done it yet? No, but he says he could use this, which most likely he will in the end. So thank you, deep state Soros. You fell right into the trap. Now, Haberman thinks POTUS just came up with a plan to fund the wall through the military after declaring a national emergency. Why disclose the real plan up front? Why not allow Dems and rhinos to expose their corruption by putting them through a publicly visible wall debate? So this was all done on purpose. Let me continue. Q says several days. What if this was always the plan? Which it was. Justice K. Timing is everything. Why deploy vested powers of the office of the president under verifiable matters of national security when you can instead unveil America's true enemy, public awakening? Gave us a link to WikiLeaks, Podesta emails. Highlights the following. Has a very good relationship with Maggie Haberman of Politico over the last year. We've had her tee up stories for us before and have never disappointed. While we should have larger conversation in the near future about a broader strategy for re-engaging the beat press that covers Hillary Rodham Clinton, for this we think we can achieve our objective and do the most shaping by going to Maggie. You are not safe. Q. So basically this is showing us that Clinton, through the Podesta WikiLeaks dump, that Clinton was using Maggie Haberman to push their narrative. Now, Joe M. tweeted out the following. Look closely at the names and faces of these journalists. This year, all of them will be fired. Some will be prosecuted. Some will be jailed. They are responsible for the gravest abuses of journalistic ethics in history. Let's move on to post 2649. Q puts up the whole thing about Red Castle, Blue Castle. This was back on December 11, 2018. Down below it, it says, how do you outmaneuver the obstructionists? How do you expose the obstructionists for what they really are? Enemy of the people? They are only now figuring it out. Q. Now, the Annans knew this all along. From Red Castle, Green Castle, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, where they were going to build the wall. The mainstream media, the deep state, they're just figuring this out now. They're just figuring out, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with the money. Trump has always had the money, and all he has to do is say it's a national security issue, and he can build the wall. Those in the House that have been blocking this, they're the ones who are against protecting America. Trump continually calls them out by quoting them from the past on how they were all for the wall and now they're not. Again, caught in a trap. Post 2650. Combat debater tweeted out the following. First 24 hours, Dems in power. Filed articles of impeachment against Trump. Introduced a bill to kill the Electoral College. Passed bill to fund government without the border wall. Voted unanimously to go home just 4 hours after taking the job. Who's worried for our country? Then Q put down, Democrat spending bill offers $12 billion more for foreign aid, 0 for border wall. And has a picture of Nancy Pelosi. She's behind this. Under this, it says the following. Why do Ds always force Republicans to include spending bills for approval? Billions of dollars for foreign aid. Who audits where the money actually goes? Nobody. Actually, the people that do are corrupt. How do politicians become extremely wealthy while in office on government salaries? Guess where the money goes? How does someone become so wealthy in government? And I'm not talking about $1 million or $2 million. I'm talking about 50 million, 100 million. How do XYZ orgs, etc., remain funded through all this funding? Now, Q gave us a link to foreignassistant.gov. $27.7 billion requested in foreign assistance in the year of 2019. Explore foreignassistant.gov to see how the U.S. government invests in countries around the world. Gave a link, and you can look around and you can see where this is, all being paid out. And if you notice, the requested amount is much lower than the approval amount. And you can see which countries are getting these funds. Why do Ds only care about control power of the purse, Power equals protection. The wheel of corruption. Welcome to the con. Now, if you look at Nancy Pelosi and you go to opensecrets.org, her estimated net worth is $100 million in 2015. Most likely today, it's probably triple that. Where do you think all this money is going? Because when you look at this site, you can see that all this money is going to everywhere else, and they can't even give $5 billion for the wall. And I think Trump asked for $5 billion, which is really not the funding for the wall. He wanted to expose what these people are really like, because they just gave $12 billion, actually a lot more, to foreign governments, because that lines their pockets. Post 2651. Q follows up with the Foreign Assistance Government site. Why for decades has the UN encouraged donor countries to contribute 0.7% of their gross domestic product on foreign aid? And Q gives us the link to YouTube. This is Trump. This is the speech that will get him elected about draining the swamp. Listen very carefully.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
The Great Awakening. If you want to listen to the whole thing, you can come to the X22 Report or just type in the search on YouTube. This will get Trump elected, and that video will come up. Post 2652. And Anon wrote, couldn't get to the page load. Q wrote, and this is to the Foreign Assistant Gov site, 2.2 million attempted to access within 1 to 2 minutes. Site crashed. Q. Right here, Q is telling us that all of these things, where all this money is going, trillions of dollars for the wars, to Red Cross, to all these different places, they're all a scam to line certain individuals in the deep state and these different governments, to line their pockets, these politicians' pockets. Everything has to be drained. They're all corrupt. We knew this for a very long time. We knew all this money was flowing out of the United States. Q, Trump, the Patriots have just exposed all these individuals and trapped them. And guess what? The wall is being built. And no matter what they vote on in the House, Trump has the firewall. The Senate was the key. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.